Hi there, folks. So this video is going to show you how to complete the Revit rendering exercise. This is exercise 10. This is one where you're going to want to use this template that's down here. So you're going to want to download this template. For you, it might open in another tab like this, and you can say download. If it doesn't, you can always go to the three dots up here, and there should be an option that says open in another tab. Ask for help if you are stuck on that, but that's going to be the basic way that you do that. Once you have it open, you should end up with something that looks like this. To give a quick tour of the file, this is the same file that I've used for a number of other things. There is a sheet down here. Your ultimate goal is to get a rendering right here into the sheet, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do. And then you can either submit the sheet printed as a PDF if you would like to take that challenge, but I'm not going to go through that in this video. Or you can just take a screenshot of your rendering in there, and I'm going to trust that you did everything else right. So to create one of these renderings, basically what this is it's going to be like a fancy picture of your house, and it's going to look a heck of a lot nicer than this. I don't have it open here. If it's right here, I will open it here, rendering complete. So what it's going to look like is something like this right there. Bam. It's going to be like real pretty with maybe a gray background. There's actually a way to import a picture that I'll mention, but I'm not going to go into detail on. So to create a rendering, make sure that you're in a 3D view. I'm going to close this so I don't get confused. There we go. Make sure that you're in your 3D view. Any 3D view will do. I'm not using this other 3D view because it was set up for something specific, and I don't want to have problems. So I'm just using the regular old 3D view right here. And the real key is you're going to click on this little teapot down here. It's a teapot with a light bulb. It says Show Rendering Dialog. In a lot of Autodesk products, the teapot is the rendering icon. That's actually a common theme. I don't know why they picked a teapot, but they did. So there's a couple settings we want to pay attention to. So watch carefully for this part. We're going to avoid the render button for now because that's going to actually start it. We don't want to do that yet. I'm going to hit region. So I do want a region, and that's going to create this red box. And this is basically like, think of this like the camera window, like you're looking through the viewfinder on the camera, or you're looking at your screen on your phone when you're aiming to take a photo. This is where it's going to take the picture from. We want to click printer, and we want 300 DPI. Okay, and this is where you're going to see you might want to change the size and shape of this window, and you may also need to change the scale if you can't get stuff to fit right. And that will, actually, I don't know if that's changing anything. Maybe you got to ignore the scale part. No, yeah, that's changing the actual size of your picture here. You want bigger is better because you can always shrink it down. So basically, as long as this is bigger than 8.5 by 11, then you're golden and your picture is going to be good. But if you notice, as I change this, it changes these numbers here. If you make it too small, then this would only be like a 4 by 6, like a photograph that you could hold in your hands. And that's also not getting my entire house in this view. So you want to sort of frame this nicely. You may want to change the angle. You can slide this box around, but this box is like the camera viewfinder on your camera, and you're going to want to adjust it accordingly. Once you have done that and you have things framed nicely, it can be nice to put things, they say the rule of thirds, where you're getting the house landing on like a third of the window. The other option is you may want to put this so that you're not seeing like the floating island that the house is on. That's just a personal preference of mine. I don't like to see the floating island, but it is up to you if you want to adjust it so that it's like that. So we're going to call this good for now. Hey, I want to move this down. Come on. There we go. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And I'm going to make it a little shorter. All right, so that's plenty of time. You can spend your own time on that. But so this is going to make it look like my house is showing up, and it's pretty much bigger than an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. It's going to fit. 300 DPI is the magic amount that makes it so a printout looks good when you actually print it. Other than that, you don't actually have to change any of these other settings. You can add an image here for the style. You would want to make sure your image is at least as big as the number of pixels here. So if you search for an image on the internet, like something that has clouds in it or something like that, clouds, pictures, Okay, that is something you want to look for. Is you want to maybe go in Google and go in the settings and do, let's see, is it advanced search? Whoops, no. We want search options or something like, oh, it's tools, duh. Size large. And then you can look at the pixels on these. If you click on one like this, and you want to make sure that you can see, usually it says right down here. So 3,800 by 2,500. That would be about a good size. That would be like a good size picture to use. And you can download this. So I'll say save as. And you can save it into a folder where you know where it is. Like I'd put it in with my drawings. We'll just call it clouds. And then you can click image here and you can actually import that. And it will set that as the background that's going to show up behind this picture. So sometimes it looks great, sometimes it looks dumb. I like to do original size, not stretch. And then you say, okay. So we'll do that. We'll see what it comes out like. And that's pretty much all the settings. You can adjust the exposure after, but I'm going to hit render. And now this can take a second or two, especially when it's, so you want it on draft to start with. When you decide that it's right, you can do it, you can change this to a larger, a higher quality, and it will be better. But let's see how this comes out right now. So it's loading. It's going to go here for a minute. You could skip ahead by a couple seconds if you don't want to sit through me talking about this, but it's going to go and it's going to load and it'll suddenly just jump all the way across usually. It doesn't really give you a time estimate. It just tells you how long it will take. A good rendering can take hours if you do it right. But so this is what it's coming out like. Oh, this actually worked out well to have the sun up there because the shadows are going in the right direction. And so this is going to be our rendering. Okay, so at this point, you could keep it like this. For the sake of the video, I'm not going to redo it at medium, but you could change this to medium if you were satisfied with where everything was. If not, you can ditch this and you can go back. You can even flip back and forth and click show model, show rendering. Once this is rendered once, you don't want to lose it. So you want to save to project, even if it's just a draft. I like to do like render one draft. So I like to type the quality setting and like a number for it. And that's going to appear down here in a new category called renderings. So that's now saved inside of this project. It's there forever. So if you want to run this again, like a draft might have a smoother texture to all this, or a higher quality might have a smoother texture than the draft does. So that's something to think about. And so again, if you don't like this, you can change these settings. You can render it again. The last thing I'll talk about here is adjusting the exposure. So you would do this before you save it to the project. You could say adjust exposure. Be careful with these because they can change really drastically. So if I say apply, like, wow, too dark. But you can always hit reset. So if you want it like a tiny bit brighter, you can hit apply. Or that was a little darker. Whoops. So tiny bit brighter, hit apply. Maybe that's too washed out. Maybe you want it a little lower. You could play with the highlights, which are basically the white parts of it. So that would make the white parts darker. You see that, or the white parts whiter or brighter. Same thing with the shadows. We can make the shadows really dark. It makes it more contrasty. You can make it really intense saturation. It's going to look really funky, like you put an Instagram filter on it. Or you can make it completely desaturated so it's black and white. And those are options in here too. If you get that to a point where you like it, you can say save to project again. And let's do render to, let's still render one. We'll do draft. We'll do black and white. It might not like the M for Stan. Oh, it took it. And there it is. So now those two pictures are saved into our project. So I said that was the last thing. I lied. The real last thing is if we open up a sheet now, we can drag these renderings. I just clicked and dragged, and I'm going to drop it right here. It's going to come in ginormous, but that's what we want because we want to shrink it down here. So I put it like that, click it. I think we double click it. Yeah. And then, so you double click it to enter inside of the rendering, and then you can drag it by its corner to shrink it down to a more palatable size, double click outside of it, and then adjusting the little shape handle here, double click outside it. There we go. If I click on the rendering, I can then adjust the length of that. And if I click off of it and I just drag this shape handle, this bar, the label, it'll keep that there. So that is basically how you create a rendering. You can play around with this, but that is how you would do this in Revit. So I hope this helps some people, and let me know if you have any questions.